from my own experience, I found it's a lot easier to compose the photo reference
Yes.
and then paint it, because this way you work all the details kind of, first of all, when you're taking the shot. If somebody else took the shot, then, you do your own editing.
Right.
And if the photo isn't exactly the way you want it, there's some elements missing or need adjustment to make it a better painting. Because painting, you have the freedom, artistic license to do whatever you want.
Right.
With the photos, if the shot isn't great as is, it's not great. But the painting, you can make a really mediocre shot into a great painting just by, tweaking a little bit here and there. Right?
Okay. Yes.
So I'm going to just, please take this in the spirit it's given of.
Yes. Yes. Please.
So now that you read that elements and principles, let's go over a few things that can you see my mouse moving? Like the, what's that?
That area, the area that on the right-hand side, yes.
Yeah. So can you expand your screen? You can see that. Is it working? Can you see it?
Yeah, I'm good seeing the picture. No problem. Thank you.
All right. Let's start with composition in general.
Right.
I like where this ends, that in here, there's no lines coming right into the corner. And I notice you took this part here and cropped it, which is awesome, because you don't want anything that leads the eye out.
Okay.
Always try and keep everything interesting inside the painting. Nothing dramatic at the edges. No high contrast at the edges. Keep it soft and gentle. Like, let's say here, see how this tree is going right outside?
Yes.
And it can be like that, okay, if the contrast is low. But when something like this is very light and this is very dark, and it could, if the painting is very, not too dark in colors to start with, and there isn't a strong focal point, it can lead the eye out.
Yeah.
So we, first of all, avoid those. Then we try and think about composition and where are the elements of the composition. So where is your focal point? Have you thought of that?
I haven't really. I'm looking at the whole collective, and I was just worrying about or concerned about each of the parts. So I started with the hills because and now I'm looking. This is only about 2 days worth, so I'm really, I'm able to change, and I could have made the mountains, the hills a bit taller, and then the trees on the right, I didn't make it quite as pronounced and as close to the foreground as they are in the picture. Yeah. I've realized. And I started on the left side with the trees, and I was really concerned or wanting to layer them with the colors, and that's what I was trying. And then I'm also I think I've mentioned I'm wanting to paint more loosely, but this is like detail, like a photo, and that's how my brain always goes to the detail. So this is not going to be a loose painting, but I am going to tackle some very soon, like that one you saw I did with the trees that you love. Yeah. And like I said, that was an hour long, and I'm getting so many compliments on it, and I'm going, and then I say to my partner, I'm like, I got to do more loose, and he goes, yeah, like do it. But every time I start, I end up doing like the picture. I just go to that all the time, and I want to break that habit. But so I started with the left side though, and I was quite happy with the different shades of green. I did the background, of course, darker, and then shades, variations on the left side to give it layers. But the right side, I just didn't know what to do now on top of the other trees. And in the picture, I know I can change something from what it is in the photo. And I thought, do I put a deciduous tree in? Do I just put a bunch of little ones? And I just want to make them look real and credible. That's all. So,
okay. So I'm hearing that you would like it looser, and it's too tight to start with. So you're still only a 2 day. That's nothing, like it's just a draft. right now.
Right, of
You're
course, of
working
course.
on a draft, you're working it, you're massaging it, you're thinking
Mm,
about it, and that's okay.
yeah.
That's how it should be, right? And
Okay,
I
yeah.
think sometimes that processing where things are and where you would like them to be
Hmm.
would be a great idea to have it in a little sketchbook and have what
Okay.
they do call a thumbnail. Let me grab I have a
Okay.
sketchbook here with some thumbnails on it. So,
Like,
um, I don't know if maybe you want to, let me stop sharing the screen for a minute and then you
okay.
can see, and where am I? No, stop share. Can you see this?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Right. So this is, some of my paintings are very, like this is loose,
Right, right.
very loose, right? And this
Yeah.
one, and I think first about where the focal point and what is the focal point subject, period.
Okay.
No matter what. See this one, especially here.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very like, it's not even a minute kind of worth of
And you just sketched
thinking.
that out. You just
Yeah,
sketched it. And
sketch, yes, with a quick
yep.
pencil, whatever. And I
Yeah.
would use like a 6B pencil, very dark. So when you
Okay.
want, because you want the darks really dark and the
Hmm.
lights really light
Of
at
course.
focal point.
Right.
Everywhere
Okay.
else, you want it, especially in a landscape. I'm just going to use landscape now and cloud paintings as an example,
Right.
because there is always an exception, of course. But let's use landscapes in general. In a landscape, you want the focal point exactly where you want it to be. You don't want something that's kind of old, similar tonal values, or very high and low tonal values all over.
Okay. You want,
And
yeah, the
the
focus.
eye,
Yeah.
yes. And then the eye, like I'm sure I will be saying things that you're already aware of, so forgive me
No,
for that.
but
But
I don't actually do that when I'm painting. It's funny. I see something and then I start and I tackle it, and I
yeah,
don't think of those things that you're mentioning. So that's really interesting to hear and good to hear.
yes, it's very easy. It's much, much easier. Your struggles are only on a little sketchbook.
Right, right.
What happens, very easy to change this to where you think, and it's really just a general idea, and you decide where is the focal point.
Right.
Then you build, like keep the same, like whatever reference photo, you tweak things a little bit. Now, you maybe make the trees longer or shorter, wider or narrower, or right? That's all
Right.
you do, like afterwards, after you decide where the focal point is. So let me go back to screen sharing. I'll use the picture to
Okay.
let's see. Yeah, there. Oh, there is too many pictures here. 1 second. There. I'll close that. Oops. Okay. Okay. Let's start over. Okay. Share screen, and there it is. Okay. So let's see. Now we look at this. Where do you think you would like the eye to go? What is it about this painting that attracted you to wanting to paint it? Just a thought.
I like the whole composition of the pieces together, but it's yeah, good question.
Aha. It's
I
a
know because right now the water kind of jumps out at you because it's the color it is, and
yeah.
it's central to the picture.
Mm-hmm. That rapid kind of like the wavy part
Yeah.
where there's
Yeah, and
a little
I
bit
just
of small
again
rapids there. Yeah.
just started it and played with a bit of a little foamy, but I was
Yeah.
going to take a lot more time with this. But
Yeah.
yeah, a good idea. I don't know. It's
So now the thinking about the focal point makes things a little different.
yes.
We look at this painting and it's a great shot and a memory, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Composition wise, It's not the perfect composition even for a photo, but it's a great memory photo.
Okay.
To create a composition, it has to be adjusted. So here is what we need to do, because there is no real focal point.
True.
Other than maybe here is where like the eye is going, but then these waves are leading the eye out. We want the eye to stay in the painting. That is the utmost goal, to keep the eye in the painting, because sometimes you walk by a piece of art and you walk and you just walk. Sometimes you walk by a piece of art and you do this, right? You do a double take and you stop and you look. What they analyze, what makes us humans and makes our brain wanting to see and enjoy, and it's a pleasant experience and joyful experience. Sometimes maybe it's a very fearful experience, but an emotional experience, is how that painting is composed.
Right.
So the subject, always good idea, let's say, to focus on, like maybe come up with something you want to focus on. Maybe add something in the image that you think the image is a great, the idea of this image is amazing. Like, look at all those mountains and then the tree, and then that, it's that path going somewhere. And it's so cool because it's that S-shaped composition already. I see it there.
Yes. And
that is a great opportunity to do something yourself that you want to maybe create, some sort of a composition that makes it even more powerful.
Right.
So first of all, let's start, let's say, with the idea of the rule of thirds. Simple, very, very simple. Let's break this into 3. Here is 1. Here is 2 lines. And here's 1. And here is a second line. Can you see the vision, like in your head, where are the cross points?
Yeah, I wasn't seeing what you were doing, but hang on.
Can you see my mouse cursor?
No, I've just got my own mouse on the screen.
Oh, okay. Then I need a whiteboard. That's why, sorry, when I asked before, I thought you said yes, and I didn't understand.
Sorry.
No worries. You said you probably see the image, but not the mouse cursor.
No mouse. Oh.
Yeah. Okay, hold on. Let me create a whiteboard. Okay. New share. What do I want? Okay, I'm going to stop this for a second and start again.
Okay.
Learning.
Okay.
Okay, share screen, and then, no, that's not the one. Whiteboard. Okay. So here's a whiteboard, meaning, let's see, can I add an image here?
Okay.
Okay. So, okay. So I'm going to, you can see that image, maybe, or visualize it, right? So I'm going to use this here, and I'm using my mouse, so it's very inaccurate, but it's going to give us an idea. So we have the trees, right?
Right.
The trees are almost almost taking half. It's about here is the end of those front, like mid-ground trees.
Yes.
Right? They're about here. They're not here. So here is a line of thirds, like the rule of thirds. Oops.
Okay.
And so we want, that's not exactly accurate, but then just an idea here. So it's exactly, you split it in 3, and the focal point either here, 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 or there. You pick one.
Okay.
Right?
Now I see one circle only there.
Exactly. I didn't do the circles on the rest, but any cross point is focal point. Yeah.
Of the center square. Yeah.
Well, yes. And it's any cross of the thirds, like that cross point of the two lines.
Right.
Or you can use the like the Fibonacci, sequence third, it's a little bit tighter. That one is a bit smaller. The golden rule is usually smaller, but let's use the simplest way and the most used easily, especially for when I started, like for a beginner, it helps so much in just don't overthink it, Selma, just use this and move on. So now, what do we want in the focal point? There is many ways to create a strong focal point. We want either high contrast. We want, to create it, there is multiple elements. So we want, let's say, the highest contrast. That's one way to do it. And the highest contrast means the lightest and darkest tonal value are in that spot. And then everything else becomes a little more to the center of the tonal value scale. To the center between your lightest point that you chose and the darkest point. Like, the scale can be, from 1 to 10, let's say, simply, because it can be from 1 to 100. But those tonal values in between, if you chose the highest contrast in here, then the tonal values around it, not, the whole scale becomes. So it depends. Maybe that's too complex for something simple like here. So let's say you choose black and white as your tonal value highest contrast. So black and white goes here. And then all the grays are all over the painting in different shades of gray.
Right.
Nothing too high contrast, and definitely no high contrast anywhere around the edges.
No.
Because that's where the eye goes first.
Right.
So, or let's say in a color scheme, you use, let's say, all greenery and everything, and then there's this little red barn. Boom. Eye goes to where? To the red barn. Right? Because red advances, green is cooler, red is warm, and it just pops. And that's where, it's complementary color scheme between the green and red. They complement each other, so poof, pops.
Right.
So that's where you choose something like that. So let's use high contrast and just use, because this this image is, it has like not many high contrast points. So I'm going to go back to that. Let's see. Okay, so it's recording. I'm going to go back to the painting now, to the photo.
Okay.
Yeah. And let's look at the photo. Do you see it now?
Yes, there it is.
Ah, perfect.
Thank you.
Okay. So, now let's look at this and think, where do you think a good focal point would be? You override what the picture is saying, but you think, where do you think a good focal point naturally from these elements can be?
Well, from your description with the drawing the thirds and the central square, either on the right-hand side, just in that group of trees, or on the left-hand side, again, not just more central, but on the edge of what would be the middle square, there might be something either there or to the left, like I guess a cabin or something that, as you said, that would draw the eye, but I don't know, something like that perhaps.
So looking at the photograph now, what I see, I see a natural eye directing element, which is the water, because of that S shape to it, like a curve to it. It's leading the eye. I see that it's a perfect element that leads the eye into something, but there's nothing there right now.
No.
So you see that edge of that end of that, or the beginning, I guess, of the stream where we can see it, and where that darkest tree is.
Yes.
Right? Imagine it moved over a little bit to the third position. Imagine the whole thing moved over.
on the bend,
On the bend.
the short tree, there's that corner, move it further to the left,
To the right.
to the right, pull it back so you can see more of
Ah,
the river upstream.
yes.
Okay, right,
And,
right.
right? So
Hmm.
imagine that. Imagine this part here. It's
Yes,
very straight. And I know, like, unless you are creating a very realism, type of painting,
right.
and like you have to keep the integrity of the location,
Hmm. Hmm.
then you can adjust things. So to
Sure.
me, this line is too straight.
Yeah,
It's
it needs a bit
flat.
more
Right.
contrast. Yeah.
Yeah. It needs a little shaping. So the line of those mountains. So I'm going to go back to the whiteboard and I'm going to show you a
Yeah.
quick sketch of what I'm
Okay.
thinking and
Okay.
see if that makes it gives a different insight into that. So
Perfect. Okay.
all right. So let's go back. My shared screen, whiteboard. All right. So, okay. So now we have the next time I'm going to prepare with a proper, with my tablet. This way I can have a proper pen. So again, let's see. There's the 3 lines, the 3/3, that is really the proper naming. So, okay, so here, so those mountains here were too straight,
Yes.
right? So, first of all, I think the focal point should be here. Right now, it's here. You see where I'm talking?
No, it doesn't show. I don't show
You
your
don't see my
phone.
pencil? Oh,
No.
like it's here right now,
Oh, I see that little squiggle now.
right?
I see that. Okay.
Okay. So now, how do I delete? I'm gonna erase that because I don't want it to confuse us. Right now, this is where the focal point that I see the most
Yes.
likely in the image as is. That's where it is. It's where the trees here meet that
Yeah.
bend, right?
Right.
And it's kind of the no-no that to have something for a landscape, especially that the focal point is in the center, it's not as pleasing to the brain. The brain
Okay.
doesn't
Okay.
like it in the center for some reason.
Okay.
They did their psychology stuff and whatever. It doesn't
No,
like it. It likes it better here in this.
just off to the side a bit. Yeah.
Yes, like that, or the golden ratio, all these points. I'm going to send you another guide. Now, this brought up that I'm going to send a guide that will maybe help with that part too. I
Okay.
started it. It's not perfect yet, but at least it will give, it will make sense what I'm trying to
Okay.
say.
Perfect.
All right. So, okay, now back to the third. So now I see that and I think, okay, so here is, of course, now I don't see the image in front of me. And sometimes just cropping the image, it creates
Yes.
a quick how you can actually recreate the same image
Of course.
exactly as is. All right, so
And,
here we go.
and
So there
maybe
is,
in this picture of the actual photo, is there too much at the bottom, you think? Does
I
that need
think
cropping
there's
or
too much on the right side.
too much on the right side?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'll
Okay.
show you a cropped image.
Yes.
Actually,
Sure.
I'll crop one as well
Okay.
to
Yeah.
see how we can make it look like the sketch without really doing too
Okay.
much editing,
Sure.
let's say. Yeah.
Okay.
So now I think here is where the bend is. So I'm looking at the tablet and then we're going to go a little bit like this. This is where the water line is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like if it goes here right to the center,
Right.
I wouldn't do it. I would bring it either up a bit or down a bit. So nothing like now, no lines right in the center or right in the corners, right?
Okay.
Just
Right.
to kind of like always keep it a little off balance in a
Yes.
little bit,
Yes.
right? Yeah. Then I'm going to, so here is the end of that curve, and then it's going to go to here. And then there's the other side of it, and it goes almost from here All right. It's hard to control the pencil, the mouse. All right. So now this one here, I don't like, so I'll do, it's too plain, so too flat. So what I'll do is this. There we go.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Good.
And now I see again, ooh, that's too even. It's not giving me perspective. So I'll delete this and then redo it. See, this is what sketching does. It's so now I'm doing this kind of. So now it's a bit more perspective.
Okay.
It's not perfect yet. Or this can be like that. I think maybe. Yeah, I think I like it like this. Now it's a bit more
Yes.
right?
Right.
Can you see it a little bit?
Yes.
That it's a bit better. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, here is the focal point, right? So what we do, we create, eraser. I'm going to actually erase the focal point little curve there that I created. There we go. So we can just continue. So now here it is. And there. Now here is the trees, right? You have the trees. So here's your kind of smallish one. And there is a bit, and they get taller as they get forward, right?
Right.
Because we're going perspective. Remember, perspective, the closest is bigger and the further ones out are smaller. So we keep kind of, and then go all the way out without ending it with a sharp, tip. No tip here. We leave it open and we'll make this tree very big and covering the whole here. So there's no more details here at the end. We don't want that. No problem. All right. So see what happened here now? Just by okay, here's a tree and here's a tree, and you can play around with these and make them really interesting. But this one just gives a lot of, texture without really high contrast. And you don't have to worry about it being in like really a big deal like that. It's half cropped into outside the picture. Actually, that creates more interest in a way, but no high contrast, right? We won't have really light water here. Let's see, like in here. Can you see that little square I did? No.
No.
No, okay. Let me, okay, where is my pen? Oh, my pen disappeared. This is okay.
Well, you're doing better than I would do, that's for sure. I don't use this. This is so
learning every day, something new. Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay, and let's see. So
I see
you see that red?
Yes, I do.
Oh, yes, got it. So without having to draw something, good. So now we see here that this is going to be a dark tree and this is going to be light water. So what we do, we make this blue of the water mid-tone.
Okay.
So it's not dark tree and light water. So around the edges, we keep it mid-tone, that no light water here and no dark ground here.
Mid-tones.
Mid-tones, so no high contrast. But you want the highest contrast, really dark tree here and really light whitish water here.
Okay.
You see that?
Yes.
And that is where the focal point. So now we have this leading to that. We have those trees doing this. And then another trick is, okay, there is, another trick is to keep the eye inside and not be led out with this part here, because that can lead the eye out. So what we do something here. So I'm erasing that, and then I'll do something like, whoops, sorry, that's not the right, undo, wrong pen. Okay, so here we go like this, and kind of, give it a little bit of a curve.
Okay.
And then it's leaning somewhere. So now
Okay.
this leaning, it just kind of keeps the eye, instead of going straight out, it goes kind of here. And then maybe you add some clouds here, that you add the cloud where you want it to be.
Yes.
And it has a bit of a little, you know, kind of a tail or something that leads the eye where?
Again, right to the middle.
To the
Yeah,
focal point.
Focal point.
Right?
Okay, good.
Now you're creating elements that keep the eye inside the painting. So that's a great like shot. We just tweak it a little bit.
Right, right.
Then we see the mountains in the back. All right. So now we have the mountains and they're going like this.
Yeah.
Right?
Too boring.
Yeah. And so we do our own mountain range. So there is a mountain. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say you're going to make a peak in the center, just below the cloud in that square, right?
No peaks in the center. No peaks in the center.
Okay.
Or you mean in the center of focal point area? In the center,
at the top, in that top square where you got the cloud hanging down. Yeah. Would you not have the peak of the mountain start lower on the edge and crest at the top, like somewhere in that below the cloud, to draw the eye to the focal point again, or not?
Maybe here's how we do it.
You tell me.
Yeah, but I see where your brain's going, so I'll show you exactly how that can work. So that's perfect point. That using also, whoops, that's not the right shape, my mouse. Okay, so we go here. Here's the mountain behind.
Yeah.
And we go down.
Okay.
And then we go a little up, maybe that way.
And your point is, it's almost like an arrow pointing your eye towards the river. Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of putting a peak here, you lead the eye out.
Right.
So it is the same principle. Like you got it. You got the principle of it, but how to apply it? That's better, I think, than.
Yes.
You know? So now everything is leading to the focal point. If you need to get that, go ahead. We're not like on a.
No, my partner's got it.
Please, So, and by the way, just let me know when you need a break. It's nothing formal here, right?
And my question again, just for the center, the little tree that's right next to you said make that the dark tree and then the water whiter, so for the contrast.
Yeah.
And then in the trees to the right of that, you just use more mid-tone greens. That would be the darkest tree, and you can then play with colors but not be as dark as that dark tree in the middle.
No, you can still make them dark, but what you can do is make what surrounds them also not too light. So you keep the value really dark in the tree, but then here you keep it medium, like to dark. So it's not a high contrast between the dark tree and the mountain in the back, let's say, or the sky, right? Right. So you don't have to make it lighter, but you can make what surrounds, because everything is relative to what surrounds it. Color is relative. Let's say the red will pop only if there is a lot of green around it. But if there's a lot of orange around it, it doesn't pop as well or as strongly.
Correct.
Same with tonal values. Tonal values are the secret, I find them. Creating the correct tonal values in any composition is the ultimate control on your painting and the ultimate preempting any issues and any struggle later. Right? Because if let's say we had the sky look really, really light and these mountains really, really dark, we end up with this focal point going here, and then poof, the eye goes out of the painting.
Yes. Correct. Right.
So now we keep the sky in mid-tones, maybe, and then the mountains in mid-tones, and that cloud, the top part of it is in mid-tones, and then this part, the one that's here, we make it in a little more contrast. So the eye goes from the top of the cloud down to the, like it's lead, right? Because you see that it's a more, there is higher contrast than the focal point, but it's not too high that it becomes the focal point.
Okay.
But it's enough to catch the eye that the eye goes, oh, right?
Yeah,
and it goes around and around. And that, I think, might help with a little bit of that part. Okay. So let me look again here. So, okay. So now here there is, of course, I'm completely off on the composition of the painting. The painting is a little more from a ground level. Now I'm looking here as if we're up high. So the part here I did is, it changed the like the viewpoint. You notice that if you look at your painting, it's really, so the viewpoint matters, right? And that changes things sometimes. But I'm just trying to give you an idea about the elements and how to generally, you know, work what you have in a photo and actually create something with it. And then those trees here, all those trees, I also would not make them in one line. I'll make them in a really jagged, kind of more interesting line. And again, leading to here. Again, with similar tonal value to the mountains. But now what I did is it's almost they're following each other. And I don't like that. I like variety. So what I'll do is change that mountain line a little bit because I'd like the trees to be looking like that. Maybe it looks kind of interesting.
Yes.
Right. And then what I'll do is go the opposite. So this is low. Like this part here is low. Then I go a little maybe higher across and then like vary it. Right. And then,
and up again.
Maybe, and maybe you can play with that, right?
Right, okay.
Right. And then you go like the trees here, they can go a little bit like that. Again, leading the eye, and there's this, you know, the trees here, and they become smaller and smaller as you go.
Yes.
Then, you know, as you go to that focal point. So for depth, exactly, right? And you see already in this little sketch, it's looking interesting, starting to look not bad.
Yes.
Like it's an interesting sketch. It's not boring. It's not, right? But if this part here where the water meets the tree, the end of the water, end of the bend, if it was in the center, it changes things. Our brain looks and thinks something's off. It doesn't know what it is sometimes. And then you're struggling and you think, maybe I make the tree taller. Maybe I make the tree lower. Maybe.
Right.
Now, you know, maybe why, like why it could be. Oh, now I know maybe the trees need to be adjusted, but not the same, you know, just by trying to make them taller. You can actually immediately look and think the tree needs to be taller, not maybe.
Okay.
That practicing to analyze paintings, I've been part of my, you know, the final course. I take images, photographs, and analyze them. Analyze what, you know, what the size of the clouds are, what the depth of field is, what's direction of light is, all that stuff. I've done pre-recorded analyzing on the screen. And while I am on the screen, I am doing, you know, the analyzing, zooming in and out. And I'm hoping that will be part that will help with this type of thing. Like maybe even this video will be a great, great, you know, like a small idea. And with your permission, if I can use the picture and I can use this, let's say.
Oh, definitely.
So now let's go back to the image. Share screen. I'm going to open a different program. It's a photo editing program.
Okay.
So I'm going to open that and show you how I would crop that picture without any major changes, just to crop it to make it look like what we we're talking
You're
about.
drawing, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's funny, I take a lot of photography, and you might have seen, I don't know if you've seen any of my photos on Facebook, but under my photos, I got albums of all of our trips, and people
I
have
know.
really followed my photos because I have a really good framing eye. I've developed it over the years. But yet, for these pictures, when I'm painting, I never thought about cropping them before I started painting it for some reason.
Yes.
This has been very good to hear. So
Yes, because photographs are real and there is a lot more, I wouldn't say a lot more allowances. No, it's just, it can be done in a different way.
yes,
And
yes.
it's different, like it's just different than painting. Paintings, you have to really change some elements. It's so rare, so rare that you can paint a photograph as is into a successful painting. Very rare, unless that photograph was taken on purpose for that purpose, like for
framing
that.
it, yeah.
And in
Framing
mine, like a life, you know, a still life that you composed it and everything is perfect and the lighting is perfect. And then you take a photograph of that because you created the elements of the photograph, right?
Right.
So now you can paint that and you'll be fine. I'm gonna go back to Zoom. I'm gonna go share screen. And there it is. Okay, so now I'm in the photo editing software.
Right.
So now here is the image, right? Let's use the crop tool and see what we can do before we even change anything major.
Right.
I'm gonna position it here right now. And what do you think? See what I did here?
Yeah, you've already created what you had drawn on the other little picture that you showed me.
Right? And this part here, you can change it a little bit.
Yeah.
Just up it a little bit, lower it, or maybe even here you can lower it a bit more. Do you see my cursor, by the way?
Yes, I can see that.
Okay, good. So you can lower this part a little bit. I'm just going to use a little pen here. And, oh, that's not what I want.
It is funny because I was concerned with all of that dead ground on the bottom left before, and I was going, okay, I painted it in. I thought, God, and I never, it's really helped me to think of that. I should have, and you know what? If I had taken that picture, I might have done more of a framing as you're doing now. It was just a friend's picture they said, oh yes, use it for painting. I've always asked people, they said yes, use my photos, no problem.
Right, and there you go. So now this can be moved like this as well. See what happens?
Yes.
You don't even see the sky. You see more of the water, and it's still here at this corner. If you go like this, it is still working. It's not as attractive though. Too much plain water. You want more elements. So I think this, even placing it at the bottom. When I did that sketch, I put it here, the focal point. But now we're going to put it here. Look at that. Isn't that much more interesting? A bit more interesting? This is, by the way, the rule, not rule of third. This is the golden, what do you call it? Golden ratio. Let me change it to rule of thirds. Here it is. This is the rule of thirds. It changes a little bit, so we get a little more sky, and then I'm going to, and then there.
Okay.
See, that changed it a bit too.
Just a little, yeah. So
you have more sky because now these the rectangles are even now. The rule, golden rule, or the Fibonacci, like a rule kind of by the Fibonacci calculation, it will be different. So there we go, golden ratio. See how much smaller this?
Okay, yeah, it's a smaller ratio in the middle.
But they're also very attractive. Most of the masters did use this, right?
Okay.
And a lot of, if you study the masters paintings, a lot of them use the golden ratio.
Okay, I'll look into that a bit more now that you've mentioned that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I find it very, like the whole subject. I read so many books until I internalized it. Remember, I told you I used to go to the library and grab so many books, and that was so fascinating to me. It really created like a whole new insight. But it
Right.
took a while, like seriously, it took, because nobody was able to tell me what I'm like telling you now in 10 minutes or an hour or
No,
whatever.
no, no,
And
no,
I
no.
had to absorb it through books and books and books. And that's
Yeah. Wow.
the self-taught part was, yeah,
Good for
interesting.
you.
So,
Yeah, great. Oh,
so let's look at this crop and look at that.
mhm. Yeah, it's a lovely.
And then you can change little things still here. So now this part here, so
Mountain.
you don't have to even do a sketch all the time. You can do it on this and you can just go
Yeah.
like that, see what happens, something like
Yeah.
this. Or maybe let me actually do it again. So now we want to highlight this. So we make this really light here
Mhm.
and we make this really dark.
Right.
Right? So we play with the tonal value, but here in the background, by the way, what really helps is that, remember, in the background, midground, foreground, the tonal values or the colors, not tonal, sorry, color saturation changes because of the atmosphere between us and the back, the background.
Yes.
So what happens is that the green is very gray. You notice that,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah.
if you keep it green and vivid,
It's
or here the mountains are too vivid. They need to be
too
washed
vivid.
out
Yeah.
almost,
It needs to be more washed out.
grayed out. Yes. So if you notice, there isn't a big difference between the sky, right, and the mountains in the tonal value. So let's check this out here. I'm just gonna do black and white. See what the tonal values are now?
Yeah, the sky and the mountains are
Very, especially if you squint your eyes, the mountains disappear.
quite close. Yeah, very close.
Almost, so very close in tonal value.
Yeah.
That's where the trick is. So here we decided the focal point is here, but what we want to do is make this white, like the water, much lighter. Or even these trees here, the bushes, we want to make them brighter a bit.
On the
And
other
the
side,
water,
on the other bank, a little bit brighter to contrast. Yeah, contrast the tree.
Yes. And then we want, this part here to be kind of like the, this is not work. Oh, okay. So I'm just going to leave it at the actually save as, and then I'll send it to you because after doing, that's okay. And save as, and black and white. And cropped, you know that it's cropped. So now to me, this part here is too blocky.
Yes.
I'd like to do something more like this, the line, and and then, and that in itself creates also a direction for the eye to stay around here. Right. And then the mountains, you can do a little lower, and then leave that more sky, maybe.
Sure.
Something like that. And then here will be a lot brighter.
Right.
And then you keep going. And this part here, I would ignore it. I'll add rapids here, but this one here draws the eye out. Exactly. Exactly. And so those little details, like you can adjust them the way you want, right?
Sure.
And maybe up instead of down, and you still can have that mountain there. And these trees, see this part here, I would kind of keep them a little subtle, more of a,
just
like, maybe turn them over like a little like that. Maybe, make them a little, right? And even, and even the line here, the tree, make it like this instead of straight up.
Right.
It can be, like that, right? And then the tip a little bit tilted in. It could be like the whole tree. Instead of, see, this line is going up. It's not that straight anyways. So you
No.
can exaggerate that. Maybe.
Well, and to me, maybe I'm wrong, but to me, I think some deciduous trees will bend, but the cedars,
Yes.
they're very straight. So
Yes.
maybe I have to change them because even the ones on the left-hand side in the distance, they're all like soldiers, but layers of them. But
Yeah.
you don't see many bending. So to do that, would you need to change? I'll have a look at it. I'll think about it.
So if you don't, it's also, of course, if you want to keep the realism of it, right? Because to me, I play around. I never follow the exact photograph, and I turn things into unreal stuff, and I make it, unrealistic, but it still could end up being okay. But if you feel like you want to keep the integrity of let's say the trees, right? That they never are, sideways or crooked or bending. You can either change the trees or adjust the value of them a bit.
Right.
You can adjust a little bit, so maybe the sky gets maybe a little more dark and the trees a little less dark.
Yeah.
So it's just, yes. So, but in general, when things are so close to the edge, we don't want them high contrast. And that's where you want to really focus on this and create the highest contrast here, so the eye doesn't even want to go there because it's not high enough. But if this here is not high enough, the eye will find the next possible contrast and goes to it. Right?
So you can mix your colors of green within the tree, but you want them softer colors to the right of the center tree, which is going to hold the darkest values.
Yeah. Or you can also do like maybe the mountain here can grow, can go up. Oops. Okay. Let's undo that. And go maybe the mountain, like the line here, you can start kind of a bit of a. Yeah. Right. And then the contrast here between the mountain, see, because this is medium value, and then the trees become like very high value or dark, right? And then this becomes a bit darker than the sky. Or you can make the sky a little, like deeper blue instead of bright blue. Right? Okay. And that's where you play with that and then you go into your sketch and then really go where you want the values are exactly. The dark, sketch it dark, like fill it with the dark pencil where you want it exactly, and go mid-tone, with the filling, the shading, and then go the lighter tones, and then look at it, and then it becomes like one of these, right?
Yes.
Right. And then now it's the same image. You still can use the colors, the shapes, the textures of the photograph, but now it's gonna make a more I guess pleasing painting to the eye, maybe to the brain. I mean, you can change these and in any way you want until you find what works for you, right? You can exaggerate, but keep that in mind that always you want everything to lead to the focal point and nothing to lead to the outside of the painting.
Right.
So you see this part here, this tree here, I would ignore it completely. This part. Make it shorter. Kind of, and keep the value around it a little, and maybe this is okay because it's not going out completely, right? Because if the line is going straight up, it's really trickier, right? You have to. So those little tweaks.
Yeah, good. And all the mid-tones, as you said, around the outside and perimeter of I'm getting the idea.
Like here, it's nice. Here, it's not going out. Let me see, because I have, there we go. I have something on my screen that's covering. Oh, here too, I would ignore this rock. I would just keep it like nondescript, like stuff at the end. No details on the end, on the edges. Maybe
Okay.
add the rock here and create something here, but then add little rocks kind of leading, kind of, right?
Yeah.
Even little rocks
River.
can lead
Yeah.
back to the,
To draw the eye out there.
yeah.
Yes.
Or you can add them here, but this in itself is leading the eye, the
It is.
curve,
Yeah.
the S
Yeah.
curve. You can exaggerate a little bit here, like the higher contrast area here. That's also
Sure.
not as high as this white, of course, but it's
Mhm.
lighter and leads the eye to the highest contrast here.
Okay.
So
Wow.
little tweaks, little tweaks, little tweaks. And then if you start the painting with this already in mind,
Yeah.
I almost can promise that it can be a lot easier, no struggling with it, and more
Right.
enjoyable
Right.
to do.
Right. Yeah.
Because you did all the thinking beforehand, not after. After,
Yeah.
like when I go in a house that's already had a major, a pillar right in the middle of the living room. Now I have to work all around it because I cannot change it.
Yes. Yes.
And it's so much more work
I
than
know.
designing the house with the architect and making sure that everything is where it belongs. And then,
Yeah.
right? Like that's how
I
I think
understand.
about it. And I
Right. And
feel much,
I never analyzed them as you do. So that's helped me to see what your process is. And otherwise I would have done this before. But again, I was just starting
yeah.
I'd never picked up a paintbrush before, and I was painting what I saw, and I went, there you go. And I just started painting it.
Chris,
So
that's how I did. That's how I did it for years. And then I thought, okay, time to, start. I just was interested in these books
yeah,
because of the
yeah,
gorgeous art, right?
right,
And
right.
it was this epiphany. It's like, oh, maybe that's why this painting that's facing the wall isn't working. And I'll look at it again, and then now I see why it's not working.
I'm glad you
Yeah.
figured that out. So
So this part, I'm gonna save that, and I'm gonna try and crop that recording so it's not a whole 2 hour or whatever it is. Not
sure,
maybe
sure.
it's an hour,
Yeah.
yeah, and clean it up a bit. And maybe with your permission, I'd love to use it as part of the
Oh, certainly,
course. Like this is the live,
certainly. Will I be able to see this? What we've recorded? You'll send that to me later.
When I
But
do
yeah,
the editing a little bit, so it's not.
all that we've done so far. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I will. Definitely.
And
That's part of
please,
what I
use
wanted to do. Like,
and
yeah.
use that picture. Use that picture. I mean, I'm sure it's a friend of mine from university, and they live in Florida, and they went on the Alaska cruise, and they're big hikers, and he's a bird watcher, and he loves butterflies and wildlife, and so he was in his glory out in the sticks, and I saw them on Facebook, and so I went, oh, I like that photo, but
It's
then
a great photo.
thought of hadn't thought, and I asked him. He said, "Oh, please use my." It was his wife's photo, but I've asked many people if I can. I have a friend in Ontario, and she is a photographer, and I didn't think she'd really let me use her painting. She said, "Not a problem." So
yeah,
I always ask people because I know there's issues with using photos that.
Yeah, always good to have permission, and if to take in an advice from somebody who learned also from Alan Wiley. I remember that workshop. That was one of the 3 workshops I ever attended, but they were amazing because it was this, analyzing, explaining. But he said something that nobody teaches business to artists. And he said, always ask permission, because now you made the painting and you will never be able to sell it or copy it or photograph it and sell prints, because if somebody did not give you explicit permission, written, so keep the email, keep the text, keep anything that's related to every time you got a permission, keep it and do it in writing, and just keep it in a folder with the image, so you're good to go for any time. Because when a painting, explodes and everybody wants a print of it and everybody wants a painting of it, it better be free.
Yeah, if it's out there,
yes. And nobody wants you to either pay them, the royalty on it forever or something, right?
Yeah.
But I'm sure friends are good to go, but in general, it's a good idea to be aware of that part too.
Okay, yeah, definitely. Well,
yeah.
Wow.
So what do you think? I would like some quick like feedback, but also I'd like you to think about it later if you
Yes.
feel that there is something I can improve. Like I would love any feedback and appreciate it. And please
Oh,
don't be
yeah.
shy of like critiquing. Like critiquing, I want to improve. So this is to improve, not to just be,
Yes.
getting compliments on things.
No, exactly. That's what we're taking courses for and doing this for. Yeah. No, that was very good. What you just took me through there with all that. That was really turned on my thinking cap. So,
But I want you to critique me, I mean.
mhm. Well, of how you just with what you've just done. I mean, it was fantastic. I mean, I followed it. We didn't have the image on there for a minute or something, and then you found out how it went on. But other than that, it was easy to understand, easy to, again, I'm going to read more into all the different fundamental things that you sent me earlier and about the techniques and the focal point and everything. I'm going to go over them all again and again, but
I'll send you also the composition guide that I'm working on.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm saying it so it reminds me in the recording.
Okay. Yeah, exactly.
Good.
Yeah, no, that was good.
So do you want to maybe just, because to me, if we don't apply what we learn, it kind of takes a little longer to absorb. So I may suggest to get a sketchbook or any, like, doesn't matter, lined paper, whatever, and make a thumbnail. Zoom in of where you want it to be. I'm going to send you the files immediately, by the way, after the session. I'll email that file in black and white and in the crop, like both. Crop in color and in black and white. And I'll keep those like the scribbles over it too.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. And
I got a few pencils already, but I'm just wondering, you said is it 6H?
4B, 6B, like something that's really soft, because the soft ones go dark.
I got I got a 4B, I got a 6B.
Good.
I got a 5B.
Either one of those. What happens is that when you're creating a dark value, you want to go dark. Don't be shy of going dark when it's dark and going light when it's light.
You need it to see the contrast.
Yes. And a lot of artists, I noticed that the image is a little bit like they're scared of maybe doing too dark or too bright or something. And that creates like a little two-dimensional, I mean, it is a two-dimensional paint, but you want to create the illusion of depth and dimension and form, like that. It's not just a shape, it's form. And that's with tonal values when it's dark. So the dark trees are almost like, maybe don't use black, but a very dark green and mix it with a bit of red. And then you'll get this almost black, but it has beautiful tone to it. But it's dark.